So it's a great pleasure of mine to introduce Sue Wallace and Peter Knight, who have been studying sacred sites for hundreds of years, millions of years.
Do you mind?
Lifetime after lifetime after lifetime.
Yeah.
They're all near you now and they're 30.
Yeah.
I'm digging them.
Thank you.
But today they are going to be talking about their new research about the Albion Dreamtime and re-enchanting the island of dragons. And basically they go to all these amazing sites, drum and sing and activate the sites, and then record your findings pretty much in that time. So thank you very much. Let's hear it for them.
We like to say that we integrate with the sites rather than activate. That sounds a bit pompous to me.
Yeah. We integrate.
We interact.
Well, really, we're going to carry on from what Pagan said in his excellent talk. He was on about the end of his talk, really, could have been the intro to ours, about connecting with sacred sites for the healing of the planet and the healing of ourselves. Because, of course, if we heal ourselves, the healing of the planet will come as a consequence as a species. So, but it is a bit different. It fits perfectly, actually, because Pagan's work was mainly about the Neolithic and Bronze Age sites, which we have dealt with in some of our other books. But we're going to go back a little bit further this time, perhaps back to purer times. We'd like to dedicate the whole of this talk to the people of Ukraine.
So for those of you who don't know us, we're two people with a passion for the earth, the sacred sites and ancient wisdom. Copy there. We host wild walking weekends, shamanic cave gatherings, dowsing workshops, trips to stone circles and full moon gatherings in chambered tombs. And between us, we've been blessed to have published 13 books over 26 years. Where is it?
So what brought us to this point? We're going to look at the Mesolithic and Neanderthal sites today. Yes, there was spirituality in the Neanderthal, because we're trying to get back to this purity. And how this came about, actually, because over many years, we'd written books about megalithic sites, and we'd started to notice, as Pagan excellently said in a lot of those slides, he saw that a lot of these sacred sites were lined up with natural features, the natural power places of the land. And this is where we're going to kind of pick up that baton. So we noticed it particularly on Dartmoor. There's a slide there, a map of all the stone features and the two stone rows at Merivale, which I dare say some of you have been to on Dartmoor. And I found time after time in researching the Dartmoor book that the stone sites and the stone rows, like the one bottom left, are lined up with natural features because they're aligning themselves physically and spiritually and energetically with the high tors, which, as Pagan said, is where the energy is. These are massive granite outcrops, but also they're also enculturing themselves with the land. They're connecting themselves. They're making themselves as part of the land because they're associating themselves with these high places where the gods, where the ancestors reside, if you like. So there's just one example there of many we found. And also as a consequence, I found that on Dartmoor, the stone circles are all situated where you can see the most amount of tors from every time. Sometimes you walk away from the stone circle just a few feet and the number of tors you can see drops. So, so this led us into looking at natural features even more. One setting here associated with my CERN Giant book. Some of you might have seen this before. I did a book about the CERN Giant a few years ago, and this is what I first look at sacred landscapes. It's called a mythologized landscape, and you can see the giant hill there, and the giant is right at the end of it. I mean, you look at the shape of Giant Hill. Need I say more? I don't, do I? This slide gets very interesting. You could turn it upside down, but we won't even go there. So, so the phallus-shaped giant, the phallitic giant, is right at the end of a phallic-shaped hill. But you look as opposite that hill, there's the very pregnant-shaped hill sticking out the other side of it called Weem Hill. And weem is the Old English word for uterus or womb. So isn't that amazing? You know, opposite the phallic hill with the giant, you've got a pregnant-shaped hill sticking out of the landscape. So this is the first clue today, how people are associating themselves with the sacred landscapes. And as as Pagan suggested, you know, sites are never random. They're never just by chance anywhere. They're always chosen very carefully and very often with the land in mind. And that's where we're going in this presentation. So eventually, landscapes became our primary focus, as it was in prehistory.
Landscape features as foci for ancient monuments is a chapter in our book. As you can see here from, it's gone completely.
Carningly.
Carningly? No, that's the hill in the background.
Yes, yes. Petra Ifan.
Petra Ifan, sorry. That's the top right. And the hurlers down the bottom that Pop Pagan was mentioning. And we're also looking at the stones themselves in Swinside. The actual top of that stone mirrors the hill in the distance. And you'll also find that in Castlerig. This happens quite a lot. So the ancient people, when they put up their monuments, they were actually echoing the landscape in the background because they knew how important it was to make that link with the landscape, because the landscape is key.
As it still is.
When we wrote Albion Dreamtime, our questing aims were to see if any of Albion's original sacred places, all of which were natural, such as waterfalls, notable rock features, forests and caves, still survived in pristine condition, because these were the places that people were going to long before they built their stone circles. And our aim was to return to simplicity, back to basics, as Pagan was saying. Our focus this time was not on stone circles and ley lines, and to develop a deeper spiritual, environmental, pagan spirituality. Albion Dreamtime also had to be a joint venture, a balance of our yin and yang, as it is with the land itself. It's such an important aspect of the land we live on. All things begin and end in Albion's ancient druid rocky shore. I know Glastonbury's full of William Blake fans. And our book tells the story of our quest to the original ancient Dreamtime places of this sacred isle.
So we sought out the spirit of Albion's hunter-gatherer pioneers. Of the Neanderthals, there's lots of evidence now that the Neanderthals had spirituality, more and more all the time, and the Mesolithic people, before farming arrived. So, and all those people lived a symbiotic relationship with the land. These people only took what they needed. And that's what we need to get back to today, as Pagan hinted at. And genetic memories of them sleep inside us all. As you know, we all have a little bit of Neanderthal in us. Is it 3% Neanderthal? Yeah, 3% Neanderthal. I think it's about 10% if you're a politician. I don't know. I won't even go there. But from the Neolithic, as Pagan said, and particularly the Bronze Age, people took what was necessary to farm. They stayed in one place. And the so-called fall, I think, starts at that point. So there's plenty of evidence for spirituality and shamanism prior to the Neolithic around Europe. So much evidence, especially including Albion. So we questioned to see if any of the sacred places of the Ice Age and Mesolithic hunter-gatherers still survived. And especially, this is an important point, what could we experience there? Because as we'll say later, experience is everything. So just a little bit to talk about the shamanic thing. There's a phenomenon called entoptics. That's something you might be aware of, which people were going, as Pagan says, taking all sorts of wonderful wacky mushrooms and that, and going into trance to cross to the other world, to the underworld and the other world. There is a difference, and to try and contact the ancestors and other worldly beings. And sometimes they carve these images. Work has been done in America and elsewhere, showing that when students volunteered to take LSD, didn't they? They didn't have shortage of volunteers, did they? So there's some university, and they found out that a lot of the images on the stones were identical or very similar to the images that people were seeing, experiencing during their LSD trips. So that was an important way forward. So, you know, shamanism was here thousands of years ago. So why have we been called to do this work now in just connecting with the landscape? By the way, I'm not deriding any Neolithic sites here. You know, we love and go to Stonehenge and Avebury and all the wonderful sites that Pagan suggested. But we're kind of looking a little bit further back in this presentation. So farming arrived in the Neolithic. Change had arrived, as Pagan said, particularly in the Bronze Age, as he said. It led to deforestation, gradual deforestation, not like today, as he said. Land is now somebody's property, eventually. Nature is now something to be controlled, which down the line leads to industrialization. And arguably the culmination of man's civilization. 5G. Yay! Not. And of course, COVID, Ukraine, they're all consequences of this downward spiral. People have information overload today, don't they? You can find anything in the flick of a button. But don't you feel that something is broken, something is wrong? Don't you? Don't you? Yes, absolutely. Something is broken, something is wrong. Sometimes you can't even put your finger on it, but sometimes, like Pagan did, you could definitely put your finger on it. So perhaps as a species, we are yearning to get back to a more original way of being. And when you think about it, this original way of being and relating to the planet was active in most of man's civilization. It's only been quite recently that it's all gone kind of wrong.
We need to get back to harmony. Because as a species, civilization has clipped the wings of our spirit. And we seek to return to previous ways of perception. We tune into the land and wisdom. Climate change is happening now. Shocking things going on in the world, forest fires, and massive storms and floods. The COP conferences are absolutely pointless, really. Just a lot of people talking. There's money above earth. It's got to be money all the time. Everything, the economy is so important to these politicians. And all of man's spiritual aspirations will amount to absolutely nothing if our ailing Great Mother can no longer support us. She will not tolerate this. More storms will come, more fires, and she'll wipe us off the face of the earth if she needs to.
We've been saying for a long time as environmentalists, we're not fighting to save the earth, are we? We're fighting to see whether we're going to be around. That's the battle, guys.
Once upon a time, long, long ago, there was an enchanted land called Albion. They're the first words in our book of Albion Dreamtime, because we know that this is a wonderful, special place to be. Albion is a storied land, a land of giants, dragons, the Fae, Arthur and Merlin, Taliesin and Gwynedd. The myths draped across Albion are usually associated with very specific natural places where the land communicates. The Druids used these places, as indigenous people still around the world still do today. And we can now, today.
Yuri, thank you. He gave us permission to use that in one of his early books. So, thank you. So Albion, a land of myths. Myths to us are remnants of Dreamtime. Legends ring with truth. And we often followed the clues to these places given by place names and legends, such as Lud's Church there on the right. Sorry, the lights are bleaching the screen out a bit. Yeah. So Dreamtime mythologized landscapes. You know, what are these tales, these old myths, this Dreamtime? They have a lot of things in common, as Pagan suggested. You can go all over the world and you find the same myths and the same stories. Generally, the earth is created by gods and creator beings. And I think this is important. Myths are inscribed on the land. It is the landscape that gifts indigenous people their stories. I think any Aborigines and else people would agree with that. It's the land that actually gives people the stories when they tune into them, when they ask the right questions. Geography is imprinted with memory. And the dream time is still now. It's still now. Dream time is no time, really. The rocks that our ancestors looked at on Dartmoor and Bodmin and Penrith, they're still there today, looking like dragons and monsters. It's still there. But the key point is the land holds memory. So how are Dreamtime stories birthed? Perhaps through simulacra. You can see the one on the right there, the Crone Rock on Dartmoor. Sensing the pulse of earth energies, of course, dowsing, etc. The ancients were dowsing. They were dowsing the serpents, dowsing the dragons, and of course, shamanic journeying.
They would have had contact with the elementals who bring spirit into physical. They would have had conversations with the fairies, as some of us can still do. Natural phenomena, what would they have made of storms, rainbows, and fog? This all gets interwoven into the stories. Wisdom from the land is absorbed by osmosis, subconsciously. It speaks to us, not necessarily with our ears, but we can feel it in our bodies.
A couple of examples there of simulacra. Paladin, you showed a couple of great ones, and Penrith, I noticed. Faces that look, and when we did the work on Dartmoor, and we looked into Chris Tilley's work on Bodmin, and he had a geomorphologist look at these granite pictures, and he said, well, the geomorphologist said, well, they probably only weathered about half an inch in 4,000 or 5,000, 6,000 years. So isn't it wonderful that the images we're looking at today aren't just similar examples to the simulacra that the ancients looked at? They actually are the same things our ancients looked at. When you're talking about granite outcrops, I must stress, obviously other geologies wear away quicker. Carnbray, there's a giant folklore between Carnbray and King Agnes Head, and we went up there looking for the giant, and there he is. A load of weird and wonderful simulacra associated with the cheese ring, not just the cheese ring itself, but I mean, this is a shamanic landscape, isn't it? This is a landscape with your imagination can go wild, and a shaman without a sense of imagination isn't a shaman, I would suggest. So Dartmoor was where my heart was first fully open to looking at the land like this, fully open to the limitless love of the land. Have you ever felt that? You've tuned in and you've been somewhere, and suddenly you get a rush of love from the land, and you just don't know where it comes from, but wow, it's unbelievable. Without mushrooms, I would suggest.
Chalice Well is a good place for that.
Yeah. So after several initiations, I felt that the land had actually let me in. Because we've got the belief that why should the land give us bugger all? Really, why should the land give us anything? Look what we've done to the earth. We rock up at a stone circle and we expect a great miraculous, cathartic experience. Why should the land give us anything? I think we're scanned. I think it's all about intent. I think intent is everything, really. So, it's bear that in mind. This speaking crone we found on Great Staple Tor. It's in the Dartmoor book. You can see her with teeth. She's almost looking as if she's going to speak. And perhaps when the shaman was there a few thousand years ago, sleep deprivation, food deprivation, a few mushrooms and a few more, perhaps she did speak to him. Because we know from doing work in caves and West Kennet Longbarrow, when the smoke's going and the lights are going, these images, these rocks do appear to move. So especially when you're on the influence. Look at Wat and Tor on Dartmoor. They're like two rock giants, aren't they? Facing up to each other. This is Dreamtime. This is how stories are birthed and then later perpetuated. Hound Tor, associated with hounds and the wild hunt. You go up to Hound Tor and there are several rocks that look like hounds and bloodhounds. So the myths are still there. You just have to look at the land with new eyes. And he's looking across to here. This is the famous Hathor, the breasts or horns of the goddess. So it's amazing how many stone circles up to 15 miles away you can see Hathor from. Very, very important site. So the land holds memories and gifts mankind the stories.
And a sacred site is not always immediately obvious. You see this one here, another one on Dartmoor. They're down Tors. Can you see the face on the left-hand side there? And the whole area has been cleared as if to make a special sacred place. In the centre is a flattened area of rock that is like an altar. It's like a natural altar. And then Pete's standing astride another one that looks like a dragon coming out of the earth. And it's been propped up by a spherical rock, which is quite difficult to find actually in Dartmoor. So they've lugged that from somewhere else. But it's a very special place and it feels really wonderful.
So officially, there's no archaeology here, that it's a sacred place. Do you get our point? So Chris Tilley, the professor, I recommend all his books to do with Bodmin. I related a lot of those principles to Dartmoor. He once said, what space is depends on who is experiencing it. And that's a really wonderful expression.
It's all to do with attitude. Here be dragons. We've all seen dragons in fires. And then we see quite a few in the clouds as well. These two particular ones we saw when we were coming back from our various quests, heading back to the car. It was nearly always at sunset. And they're amazing. The one top right, it even looks as if it's breathing fire. But we can all see them. You just need a little awareness and just look with a slightly different mind. And here's a few more in the rocks. Beautiful one at the top. It's actually called the Drinking Dragon. It's just off the coast of the Isle of Man. The one on the bottom left-hand side is also one on Dartmoor. It looks like a dragon's head. It's just surfacing from the land. Taking a look around to see who's there.
It's us.
It was us. And the one at the bottom, the Durdle Door. We went there on a site visit with Gary Biltcliffe and Carolyn Hall. And magical place, often also known as the Drinking Dragon. And Pete was told while we were there that the time of the dragons is returning. And there's definitely a dragon consciousness that's emerged in the last sort of 5 or 6 years, with Dungeons and Dragons and all these various different television programs and toys and things. Dragons are all around us. Caves. We had to go to visit quite a few caves because they are very special places. So there's actually 19 in the book. Places of myths, of dwarves and dragons. You're going into the womb of the Earth Mother. They are liminal places, places of fear, the unknown. Especially for me, I found them very frightening to go into. I don't like small, dark places.
So I took her in 19 of them.
Yeah. I had different experiences in many of them. But they were also very resonant places. Sacred sound became really important. And we all know about Ice Age cave art, and it's often in the acoustic hotspots. Well, we don't have much Ice Age cave art in Britain, but we did find a lot of acoustic hotspots. And we realised how important sound was. We'll cover a bit more of that later. And these properties were then replicated in the design of chambered tombs. So they took the ideas of caves and created chambered tombs to create the same kind of effect.
So this is Yordus Cave in the Yorkshire Dales. You go inside and there's a waterfall that crashes through it. Amazing, you have to paddle through the water, and it's sensory overload. It's a soundscape, if you like. Sound is so important. And sometimes, have you noticed sometimes when you stand under next to a great waterfall, it's almost deafening, isn't it? But there's a sense of peace there. So, you don't necessarily need silence to find peace. And waterfalls are a good example of that, especially in caves where the water is crashing through, because it's a total immersion of the place. I think Pagan mentioned you go in these dark chambered tombs and, the rest of the world is cut off. You're totally in the now. There's no landscape to view. So when we went into this cave, Yordus Cave, we after going through for about 100 yards, it opened up onto a ledge with these wonderful stalagmites and stalactites everywhere. and you could only just about see the entrance. And the waves and the water is crashing all around us. And yet we found that the sound in there was absolutely incredible, absolutely amazing. And you know as you're there that somebody was there thousands of years ago doing a very similar thing. We don't do anything on any of our tours unless we are absolutely convinced that that thing was done there thousands of years ago. You know, as wonderful as they are, we never take digis or djembes to sacred sites. Sorry, guys, they weren't here. But we take frame drums. So we soon realized the importance of sacred sound. And sometimes chanting was necessary to allow us to enter the site when we had initially been denied entry. Sue's going to talk about this later. It's really important we just don't barge into places, because we are the interlopers when you think about it.
So in a way, we're singing the songlines. Most people think of songlines as Australia, but we have a songlines too, lots of them. And if you look at that word enchanting, bringing magic to a place, the word chant is in the middle. So it's key that we actually create a sound in order to create that enchantment. But we'll talk more about that later. So there are also many watery places in our book. Our quest took us to lots of rivers and lots of waterfalls, because water is incredibly special. We take it for granted. We can turn on the tap and there it is. Not everyone can do that. And certainly in ancient times, it would have been a sacred place where we got fresh water to drink, because without water, there is no life. So watery places often have mythic locations. Excalibur, water creatures, water spirits, the Grail Knights. They're all various myths that are associated with water. Many of you probably know the work of Masaru Emoto and homeopathy, of course. Water holds memory. So think about it. All the water that is on the world has the memory of everything that happened throughout the millennia of Earth's existence. It also has healing negative ions, and waterfalls particularly have life-affirming places. They're really special places to be that make us feel vibrant and alive. We've got two wonderful ones here. St. Nectan's Glen, I'm sure many of you have into St. Nectan's Glen. And of course it has the female association with it because of its hole with the waters flowing through. And the other one is Janet's Foss in Yorkshire. Yorkshire, I think it's South Yorkshire. Beautiful places with lots of magic and fairies and nature spirits around. There's two more here. Conway Falls. It had been raining really heavily not long before we visited Conway Falls, and it was crashing over the rocks, creating all sorts of spray and mist. And then a little bit further downstream, we visited the Fairy Glen. It's the same river. It was silent and peaceful and beautiful. And you could see there was froth on the surface of the river that had obviously where it had been churned up so much coming over the falls. And you could see this froth moving and morphing into all sorts of different shapes. 1 minute it would be a bird, and then it would look like a dragon. It's a really magical place, and this place is associated with Merlin. So perhaps he went there to gain vision for various answers to his problems that he was having, to converse with the river and get the answers. Wonderful place full of fairies, magical nature spirits.
So wilderness, we do have places of wilderness in Britain where you can walk and not see anybody all day. Yay! And places in Scotland, places in Wales, of course. Dartmoor I include in that. Bodmin to a certain extent, okay. I always call Bodmin Dartmoor's little sister. Am I all right with that, Pagan? Yeah, okay. But Dartmoor is the biggest wilderness area south of the M4, that we have left in Britain. But wilderness places, as I say, still occur. They're unnerving in their spaciousness, whereas caves are a trial and tribulation because you can't see anything. Actually, too much space can also, wildernesses can be edgy, challenging. You're out of your comfort zone. We like that. We like going out of our comfort zone because we find that's often where the magic lies, when you get out your comfort zone. We often go skyclad sometimes, all weathers, day and night. It's not about, a lot of people go somewhere on a nice sunny day, park up in the lay-by, get their sandwiches out, and they say, yes, we've done that. No, you haven't. Go there overnight. Go there when it's pissing down a rain, But while we're doing these wilderness things, we feel an awakening of our hunter-gatherer that sleeps in our DNA. That hunter-gatherer is inside all of you, right from the Neolithic, the Mesolithic. And to us, fear can be transformed into exhilaration.
We also included 4 ancient forests of yew and oak in our Albion Dreamtime quest. There is an enchantment of trees. They too hold the memory. The mythologies are rich in tree stories. The tree of life, the world tree, the Yggdrasil, I could go on. Every single culture has a tree somewhere in its belief system. Trees are wisdom keepers. They hold the memory of the land, particularly the ancient ones, and then they pass on those memories and their stories to the younger trees. They communicate with each other. We're all hearing now about this wonderful system of the mycelium going through the whole root system underground, where they're all communicating with the other trees. So no tree stands in isolation. They nurture their young. They feed them through the roots. It's quite incredible. And perhaps this is what we need to do. We need to mimic the wide wood web, not the World Wide Web. We need to nourish each other in different ways. And meditation and dowsing can help us connect with these trees. They do speak to us. This huge one here is incredible. It's the Cathedral Oak in Wiltshire, not far from Marlborough, in the Savanac Forest. Really special place. We're actually leading a walk here on the 22nd of April. So do come and join us and come and meet the wonderful Cathedral Oak. There are 2 more wonderful trees. Beautiful dragons in the Kingly Vale. You see it?
No Photoshop, I assure you, has been used in any of these. When you get out into the wilds of nature, you don't need Photoshop. It's all there. This yew spirit, this dragon, unbelievable. That one at Alton Priors inside a hollowed out tree. So the point of these slides is, as well as they are occurring now, they've always occurred, haven't they? So our Neolithic, our Mesolithic, our Neanderthal ancestors were also seeing things that look just like this. I think that's the point. It's not just about what we see now, but when you do see things like this now, I think you're crossing a bridge. You're crossing a bridge. Your inner child is coming out to play, and you're getting into the realms of the shaman, if you like, the ancient way of looking at things that once everybody on this planet perceived things as. It was once said, I did read a sort of quote in somebody's book, that once every single person on this planet had a shamanic mindset. Every single person on the planet. It was only later, as you come into the the Neolithic and the Bronze Age, that all that knowledge and way of seeing is handed over to the specialist. Once we all had that way of perceiving the land in that magical way.
That everything has spirit. Every plant, every rock, every single thing, the river, all the water, the oceans, it all has spirit. And even now our buildings have spirits that we need to speak to live in harmony with the world.
So we were compelled to journey to Albion's original sacred places, all of which were natural. But would they speak to us? We also felt there was a sense of urgency, and that time was running out. And the more we left our analytical side behind, the more we were gifted. Isn't that amazing? Us guys, and speak to the men in the audience, particularly here, we like to analyze everything to death. It's just how we are. But I've found, you know, the more we simply honor a place, the more we were given. You know, when you go to get, the place can sometimes close off to you. If you go there just to honor a place, lo and behold, I think you can be gifted, perhaps even more. So that was an interesting thing that we discovered. Sometimes just go there and, you know, just sit sometimes. And we were gifted. We were gifted poetry, chanting, deeper wisdom of the land. And sometimes overwhelmed, as I said earlier on, with just this overwhelming feeling of love. You know, where's that coming from? You know, and is it coming from the land? Is it coming from within us? Isn't that the same thing? Isn't that the same thing?
So, in our Albion Dreamtime book, we describe 100 surviving pristine natural sacred places of the ancient people, what we believe where the ancient people would have gone to before they started building their stone circles. We've got maps and directions, all the AS grid references and everything.
Oh, remember them grid references?
Grid references.
Hey, grand.
Yeah,
Maps. Who likes maps here? Who likes maps? Yeah. Yes. So that's just an example of what all the chapters look like. That just happens to be the Welsh one and a few sites from Wales. So it's a very in your face, very in your hands book. You know, we want an experiential book with all our experiences in there. So we haven't got time to go through the 100 sites. So we might go through about 10 or 12 in the next half an hour, just to give you an example of some of the things we experience. So it's a very personal journey.
Some very special places. So who's been to Merlin's Cave in Tintagel? Yeah, a few hands have gone up. Yes. Brilliant. If you haven't been there, go. But do check the tide times first, because the tide will come in and wash you away otherwise.
That's a good tip. That's a good tip.
The water goes right through. So this cave actually goes right through underneath the cliff, in one way and out the other. So it's more like a tunnel than a cave. And there are energies going through there. Amazing. And the breeze comes through. Really special place. And we visited it. We've been there many times. We visited it this one particular time, specifically for the Albion Dreamtime quest. And we were doing some drumming. And Pete suddenly got this drum beat given to him.
And he was told it was the dragon's heartbeat. So if you hear that, there's a dragon nearby.
Or me.
Or Pete.
And as we came out of the cave, because we realised the tide was starting to come in, we saw this in the cliffside. Can you see it? It looks like a dragon. It looked like a dragon to us. And it probably is about that size, just in the side of the cliff. It's a quartz intrusion or something, I think they call it. But it's almost as if you can see the wake where it's flying along. Got those marks to one side.
Quite amazing. We've been there several times before, never spotted that, and it's actually looking into the Merlin's Cave. So amazing. When you're in the right space, things are revealed to you, I believe. So we went to a place called the Furlstone in Devon. That's another one of our sites. Locality 16. We have to miss a few out. Some of you might have been there. It's quite a popular tourist site on the southwest coast of Devon. Site of a Mesolithic forest. When the tide goes out really low, sometimes they can actually see some stumps of a Mesolithic forest. So although it's 200 yards off the shore now, it would actually been perhaps even part of the cliff or right on the beach at one time. But I mean, look at this. It's a phallus in one direction and a yoni in the other direction. And we timed this to get there exactly on the low tide, because you have to. It's 200 yards offshore, but you can't mean to tell me this isn't a sacred site. And the journey going out there is quite special, isn't it?
It was a beautifully still summer's day, and we were picking our way all through the rock pools to get out there. As Pete said, it was about 200 meters, 200 yards. And beautiful rock pools with all the little crabs and sea anemones, and beautiful coloured seaweeds and rocks. So it took quite a while to get out of there. It's quite slippy with the seaweed. And we spent quite a bit of time out there, connecting with the rock itself and feeling the energies and doing a bit of chanting. We picked up pebbles and we were knocking them against the side of the arch itself. It was really special. And as you can see, I'm standing in the middle of the arch there. The sea was completely still, really magical. And then suddenly, something switched, and the sea started moving. You could see the seaweed going. Oh, tide's changed. We better get back to shore. So again, we picked our way all the way back to shore, amongst all these beautiful rock pools. And then when we got to the shore, we turned, because we'd been looking down all the time, checking our footsteps. We got back to the shore and looked up, back at the arch, completely foggy. The sea mist had rolled in, and we couldn't see the arch at all. It was just that magical moment. I think the Celts or the Druids often used to call this the dragon's breath. And when we got back up to the car park up on the cliff, this view was all we could see. That was the very top of the arch above the mist. Magical moment that anyone could have had.
So there's several places on Dartmoor inevitably that are in our Albion Dreamtime. This one was featured in my Dartmoor book as well. Wistman's Wood, a lot of you have probably been to Wistman's Wood. My best tip to that is go out of season, would be my best tip. But it's very magical. This ancient dwarf oaks that are vying for position with the granite clitter. We went several times to do some healing there and do ceremony. There were several rocks you can sit under, and we had some magical experiences with the spirits of place and little robins that come up. Remember that one robin that was bouncing around us while we were drumming, and as soon as we stopped drumming, he bounced off. I later found actually that the robin is one of the familiars of numinous. Yes, we found out with a bit of research. So that was quite interesting. So just share a couple of things with you. I wanted to show Sue this rock, this triangular rock, which arguably has been erected, but sometimes they do settle like that. And it's definitely a portal. I'd had several fantastic experiences there. And you can see even this root, this serpent had showed up in the root of the tree. So this is how ancients sort of perceive things. But you didn't go to the triangle rock, did you? This took talk about ents. This took your attention, didn't it?
There are lots of beautiful trees in Wistman's Wood, and they're all covered in this amazing lichen and mosses. And this one in particular took my attention. We were just connecting, I was connecting with this particular tree. And I could see, just in the side of the trunk, was a face. It had eyes and a nose, but no mouth. And I just thought, what's the significance of that? Of course, trees can't speak for themselves. We have to speak up for them. So when you hear about trees getting cut down, particularly the big old trees, speak up for them. Stop those trees getting cut down. They're far too important.
All this bollocks about when they do a bypass, it's okay, we're cutting down 100 trees, but we're going to plant 4,000. What twaddle that is, It's the big trees that are holding the wisdom of the land, that we need, that are doing the communication. It's like you're replacing elders with a kindergarten. You see what I mean? The younger trees can't possibly hold the wisdom that the older trees have taken centuries to build up. So we're not swayed by such arguments anyway, are we?
No, and the ancient forests, of course, have got such ecology that goes back thousands of years, and that can't be replaced by new forests. It just won't, not for maybe 100 years perhaps.
And you're not always given things that will start a religion, thank goodness. And on this particular occasion, that portal stone, I was told, hey Pete, this portal is not an entrance into another world, but rather a tool to open your heart in your world. People are going up the tour waiting for the mothership to land. It's not going to happen.
What might? Okay.
It's not going to happen. So this is the only planet of choice. And we've got to make the right choices.
When we were first talking about creating this quest, Lidford Gorge was the top of my list. Who's been to Lidford Gorge on Dartmoor? Ooh, only a couple, yeah. For those of you who don't know, it's a really steep-sided gorge with a river running through the valley. There's this amazing White Lady Falls at one end. You see, I'm standing in front of. And at the other end is another fall coming in from another river, which is what they call the Devil's Cauldron. So that draws you in to start with to find out what's going on. And the water has worn away the rocks in this huge circular cauldron. And the noise when the water's running through is incredible. But it's a really special place, full of nature spirits. And the St. Michael line runs through it as well. Really special, especially to me. My place of pilgrimage.
I love that saying at the bottom, a river always seems to know where it's going. Can we say the same?
The path of least resistance. And we went there on a night visit, or an evening twilight visit, to bless the water, because I have this thing about water. We need to revere it and honour it. So we went along one night, and you just know that you're being watched in the darkness. Very special place. And I walked in, just paddled in, and I screamed. Pete said, "What's the matter? Is the water cold?" I said, "Yes, it is cold, but it was more than that. I actually could feel the pain of the water searing through my body. The water was actually saying, you know, please do something about this. The water is just being trashed. We really need to look after our water. So wherever we go, any kind of water, even the water we drink, especially the water we drink, to give it love and gratitude.
It's the only water we've ever had, isn't it?
It's the only water that this land has ever had.
Go on, say my favourite thing.
It's the same water that the dinosaurs drank
How cool is that? And pooped in.
and pooped in.
Yeah. Same water the dinosaurs drank. That's pretty cool, isn't it? So, not too far from here, we have to include a Somerset site. There are several, but Avalon's Hole in Borrington Combe. A lot of you all know Borrington Combe. It's actually one of the few Mesolithic cemeteries. There aren't many Mesolithic sites where you actually see the word cemetery in the same sentence. And it's absolutely magical. One of the rare examples of entopics were found down the bottom there. Those images I said earlier on, those zigzags and diamonds associated with a trance. So you go down this cave for about 100 meters, you go down a 45-degree slope. That's your initiation, quite rubbly. But when you get to the bottom, you know, the light is just a little cuticle at the top of the thing. And the acoustics are amazing. Paladin mentioned the acoustics inside these dark places. Well, this one is amazing. We can see why it was chosen for the cemetery. But it was also, like I'm sure Paladin will agree about the Neolithic sites, they're more than just places for the dead. Always more than just places. This is where the living are going. And we thought, well, why here? Not one of the other caves that's all over the Mendips. And we then shone our torches up above us, and we saw that. That's about actual size. We call it a cave spirit. And the cave has been dry for quite a while. So that shape there has been there perhaps for thousands of years. And she's floating towards the darker part of the cave where the cemetery was. And you get all those on the ceiling. The whole ceiling is full of these spirits. And of course, when you've got lamps and lights in there, which they would have had in ancient times, all of these become animated. So you can imagine very trippy, with or without mushrooms, these would have appeared. So again, the magic is there. You've just got to look at the landscape differently. And the magic is there. And we have a saying in that cave, there's a silence there that reaches back to the Mesolithic. Because we do drumming and chanting with all of our tours, but we also have times of silence when the place speaks to you. How can the place speak to you if you're doing something? You know, sometimes we just have to be human. We're always human doing, aren't we, rather than just human being. So, and caves are places where we also have silences. So some of you might know Uffington Castle, just another, the reason this is on our list, although the dragon is up there, and he is the dragon of Uffington, isn't he? He's not the white horse of Uffington, he's the white dragon of Uffington. The actual hill below that you can see, although we're pretty sure it's a natural hill, there might have been some modification in there. So, but we felt we wanted to include this. The Belinus line energies go through it. So it was just an example in the book. We give some examples of occasions we've been there to do earth healing and chanting and dowsing, just to give, rather than taking. One thing we discovered actually, that picture there was taken on the morning of the solstice at noon. And if you notice that the hill which is to the south of it doesn't obscure Uffington, doesn't obscure Dragon Hill. I'm not aware anybody had noticed that before. At noon, the Dragon Hill is never in shadow. It's in sunshine all the time, providing the sun's out. So King Arthur's Cave, some of you might have been there. We take groups here a couple of times every year. We're doing a lot of research with this. Andrew Collins did some work there many years ago with his questing group. A very sacred place. It's associated with Ice Age finds, Arthurian and Merlin folklore there. So we really are drumming in the place of the ancestors in every sense, but I would suggest also in the presence of the ancestors. In the presence of the ancestors.
And this is one place where we discovered that we not only need permission to enter, but there was something more about it. We always have checked with the spirit of the place to see if it's okay to enter a place. And we'd driven here one day, taken 2 hours to get there. I think it may have been Pete's birthday. And we'd got there, anticipating going in for a little drumming and a little communing with the place. I paused, feeling quite anxious, thinking, doesn't feel right today. And I said, is it okay for us to enter? And the spirit of place said no. Okay, what do we do now then?
Where we're going to eat me cake.
I thought, okay. Connected again with the spirit of the place. I said, is there anything we can do that would make it okay for us to enter? Is there anything we can give? And the answer came back, sing me a song. Okay, I don't know many songs. So I just kind of started to hum a bit of a tune. And then it actually gave me a little tune to sing. It just came into my head, little tune, sing it over and over, just for a couple of minutes, maybe not even that. And the whole of the energy changed of the place. So whereas I'd had that kind of strange, anxious feeling before, it suddenly became really calm and really beautiful and really magical and enchanted. So had it changed the vibration of me and us? Had it changed the vibration of the place? Had it tuned us in? I don't know. I just don't know. I just know that it felt completely different. And we've found that different places we've been to since, similar things have happened. And each place has revealed a unique song, the song of the place. Now you might get a completely different song to the one I was given. Try it, please, and you will be speaking to the spirit of the place. And this is what I think we need to do to enchant the land again. It's really important. So we went on to have a really wonderful experience in this particular cave.
With cake.
With cake.
With cake.
Birthday cake.
Yeah.
Are we doing?
Yeah, I think it's on the, yes.
Yeah.
So sorry these are bleached out, but I know the guys have got to, the pictures are top quality on our, in any picture you want to see again, we can show you afterwards. There's a dark chamber. One of the chambers at King Arthur's Cave is almost pitch black on the left. And we go in there with our groups, and it's a very special occasion. I love this one. It's like the light is reflecting. It's almost like demonstrating Sue's shadow side, you know, which we all have. And can you see the patterns on the rock? Can you see the patterns on the rock? Those are natural features. But what did our ancestors make of them? These faces that are naturally in the rock. And again, everything we do, and it's in the book, and what I'm going to read to you, anybody can have. Anybody, we're just normal people. So it's associated with Arthur. And I was getting nothing this one day. So Sue went off, we'd done some bear howling and wolf growling and all that sort of thing, as you do, because those animals were found in the cave, so we connected with the spirit of the wolf and the bear. But you went off into the dark chamber, and I sat in the lighter chamber with pen in hand and book, and almost out of frustration, because the site is associated with Arthur, I said, "Arthur, are you here? Are you here?" And then my pen starts. The reply is immediate. "I, Arthur, am..." The spirit of Albion. My heart opens as Sue continues to chant and drum, unseen in the other chamber. "What should I do then?" I ask. "Do as you and others are doing. For as long as people re-enchant my name out on my sacred land, then one day the spirit of Albion will surely rise again." I reply, "Thank you." And at that exact moment I said thank you, Sue in the other chamber stopped drumming. You could not make it up. So she had been the voice and the drum that awoken spirit, and I had merely been the scribe. And at that second, remember that gush? The gush of wind came in and blew all these leaves all over the place into the cave. So, you know, that enchantment is there for everybody. It's all about intent and going in with an open heart. So a couple of Welsh places, waterfalls you can actually stand behind. I'm sure some of you might have been to some of those in the past. There's a couple in the Brecons we've included in the book. You know, to stand behind a waterfall that's thundering in front of you, it's like something out of a Spielberg film, you know. There's 2 different trips there, wasn't there?
This is actually the same waterfall in 2 different seasons. So you can see on the left there, I'm in a t-shirt, and it was a beautiful day.
A t-shirt in Wales?
Yeah. It was a lovely day.
They know what I mean.
It doesn't always rain. But in the picture on the right, you can see it had been raining quite consistently, and I've got a feeling we went in February. Interesting. Always go out of season. You have a totally different experience. And it had been raining and raining, and the waterfall was in full flood, and we got drenched despite the waterproof clothing.
It was great.
It was great. It was exhilarating. And you know that thousands of years ago, the shaman was there with his initiate. It's just perfect.
Devil's Gorge in North Wales. I've got to skip most of the Welsh sites. This really is like going, it's a doorway to Anwen. As you're going towards it, the place like sucks you in. It's unbelievable until you're standing over this 45-degree slope that goes into total darkness. We haven't even found the bottom of the cave yet.
It's huge, it's like a cathedral.
And all these sites we've shown you are open. You know, they're all open. There's nobody taking your money usually. So you go down this 45-degree slope, and the acoustics were incredible. I'd gone down there already. There's you tentatively. Sue says, "You sure these aren't fresh rock falls?" And I said, "No, of course they're not. Of course they're not." So it's about, you know, facing your fears. I love the Campbell quote there. "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek." And that is so true as a metaphor for life generally, I think. And it was, some of you might remember the second Star Wars film where Luke has to go, yeah, this is for the nerds in the room, the second Star Wars film where Luke has to go into the cave, and he says to Yoda, "What's in there? What's in the cave?" And Yoda says, "Only what you take in with you." So again, it's all about the fears, getting rid of them, and challenging yourself to go out of your comfort zone. Reynard's Arch in Dovedale. I mean, look at this. Isn't this a Dreamtime landscape? This huge arch, and if you go up the 45-degree slope, you come to 2 caves at the top. Neolithic and Roman remains. This is into the Dreamtime. You know, if the Aborigines had come along and seen that huge rock arch, they'd have regarded that as a Dreamtime site. So you go up through the arch, and when you come to the cave, can you see it even with this lighting? It's like dementia, this total rock, this face overlooking. You're actually walking into the mouth of the beast. On bottom right there's an elongated head in natural rock that we found. So elongated heads. So Thor's Cave is another one. I mean, look at the size of that. That's in Derbyshire, you know. It's not in some exotic place abroad. It's in exotic Derbyshire, the Peak District. Ice Age and human remains found in there. And when you go in there, the right-hand picture, there's all these huge chambers you can go into and explore. We know that the shamans were using this cave thousands of years ago. The local museum has some finds in there. There's two entrances. In the bottom left picture, you can see the main entrance we just showed you. But I noticed this smaller entrance on the left. And the inner nerd in me spotted we were there just after the solstice, and I could see where the sun was. The sun was going to shine through that side entrance just before the solstice sunset. And I reckon it would do so for about a week either side of the sunset. So we waited in the side chamber, and eventually you can see the picture on the right. That beam of light came in and shone on this tall megalith. And so we waited to see whether that, not megalith, it's a natural rock portal that looks like a megalith. So we're waiting for it to be fully illuminated, aren't we?
So this was a few years back when the moors were on fire. We had a long period of drought, and the moors were seriously on fire. And I thought, well, while we're waiting in Thor's Cave, who better to appeal to for a bit of rain? So I'm saying, oh Thor, please bring us sweet, gentle rains. 4 days later, it rained. Bit slow, yeah. I think it worked.
It did. So around sunset, we waited and waited and waited, and gradually the side chamber was lit up by the sun, and it can only happen at the solstice, the summer solstice. And we know people would have spotted this thousands of years ago. So again, in the footsteps of the ancestors. And as the sun is setting, the beam of light gets narrower and narrower until eventually it's just light in this one column. And you can see at the top, there's this looks like a whopping big luminous rock or quartz on the top. You know, you can't tell me this wasn't a sacred place thousands of years ago. So we're going to go back there again around solstice time and again and give an experience. So just going up north again quickly. I mean, this is like Simulacra Central. There's a place called Ramshaw Rocks, and there's loads of simulacra all over the place in the gritstone. And the one on the right we liked. He's a bit like, I think he's got a bit of a spliff coming out the side of his mouth. You can see the one on the right. He's about 20 foot high, isn't he?
I call him Buddha on a bad day.
Yeah, definitely. But, you know, the size of that is amazing. And the thing, the millstone grit, as you know, millstones are so hard. So these have been visible, these faces, for thousands of years. So another Dreamtime landscape is Brimham Rocks. Please go there. Again, millstone grit. There is bears, there's dragons. You can see bottom right, we call that the dragon skull. It's associated with fairies. Surprise, surprise. So, and again, these things have looked like this for thousands of years. The top left one is called the Druid's Writing Desk.
But I think it looks more like ET.
It does.
Thank you.
Lots of holes for me to scramble in. I'm like a goat when I go to these places.
It's like a playground.
Yeah. The one on the right, and when you can see that picture in this illumination, that 200-ton rock called Idol Rock is actually balanced on 18 inches of softer rock. Can you see at the bottom? It's not Photoshop, that's how it is. So I said to Sue, we need a good shot. Do you want to go underneath? And she did. So it actually looks as if I'm trying to topple it over. I'm holding it up for you.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm keeping you safe.
Thank you, Dean.
Yeah. So again, Idol Rock, why is it called that? It reminds me actually of those headless Neolithic figures they have at Malta. Do you know? It just reminds. It's got that goddess voluptuous shape, hasn't it? And all these you can go and see anytime. St Cuthbert's Cave, associated with the saint. Again, it's a rock shelter really, and we felt we couldn't go straight in there. That little rock on the left there. When you get closer, you'll see there's a gash going through it, and we thought that was the way to go in, which nobody else goes in. And we came out the other side. You can see bottom right. I mean, talk about a sleeping dragon. Again, sorry it's being bleached out a little bit. The whole place has haunted and devil folklore. If anywhere has a devil's folklore, go to it. Yes.
Find out why.
Because Christianity generally didn't want us to go to places that are actually beneficial to us. So so devil folklore, go for it. But it's only when you get under the rock shelter itself that you realise how special it is.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
We're going to go over time.
Well, can we do chanting instead of questions? Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So talk about drumming the dragon. Look at the claws of the dragon. We're under the belly of the dragon. Amazing. And all these places are out there. In Albion, in Britain. One place in Scotland, apology for anybody Scottish here, that we'll just include that one, the praying hands. The mountain in the background is Schiehallion, the famous fairy mountain. So again, there's an argument about whether that's natural or being erected. To me, I'm not bothered. It's there today. You'll see it's lined up with the mother mountain behind it. There's me doing a bit of dowsing. So what are you up to there, Sue?
I'm, as you can see, the rocks are quite laminated. There were some hollows behind it. So I was just tapping different areas to see the different notes that I could get. So I was playing a bit of rock music.
That joke does not get any better. Okay. So to sum up, we have a new vision for Albion, which we call the Albion Dreamtime project. There's more about it in the book. It's about connecting with the land from the heart, which I'm sure a lot of you are already doing. It's about intent and respect for everything and everybody. It's about challenging ourselves to go beyond our comfort zone.
And to receive the land's stories. Just to sit, be quiet, and listen to what the land has to tell you. Not with your ears, but with your heart. That's where it comes in. And be part of the environmental awakening, such as rewilding, buying organic. And question ourselves about how we're living, what kind of carbon footprint we're putting on this earth. And whether we should actually be taking crystals from the earth. I know they're pretty, I know they're beautiful, but we're actually taking them from Mother Earth all the time. Unless you're doing something really special with it.
So please seek out the Dreamtime to receive those fleeting moments of gnosis, the whispers of Gower, when outside actually becomes inside.
And to feel the bliss, the sensuality, and the caress of pure love that comes from our deeper connecting with the land, onto which we'll also etch our own stories, to become part of its mythologies, part of its stories. The land holds memory. Tune in.
So landscapes and sacred sites, we sum up our living interfaces saturated with memories. They surely have a greater purpose than us just gaining knowledge. What's the point of knowledge unless we're going to do something with it? They survive so we can experience them today deeply. So step out of the back of the wardrobe, step out of one comfort zones, and there you might find that the ancestors are actually waiting for you.
A Greenland shaman once said, the greatest distance in the existence of man is not from here to there. Nay, the greatest distance from man is from his mind to his heart. Think about it.
So sometimes we just send out our love, purely and simple. Sometimes that's enough, and it's amazing what you'll receive. Just go out and just honour the places. So at this pivotal time of climate emergency, and it is happening, I don't mind having a discussion at our table afterwards, climate emergency, we're being called upon to heal the land. People fight to protect that which they love. You can imagine the moment the whole of our species regards the earth as sacred, it's impossible for us to let it be destroyed, isn't it? You'll defend your holy book, your children, your rosary beads. So as soon as we regard the earth as sacred again, like we once all did, then that's the way, isn't it? That's the way. Perhaps it's the only way. I don't know. I'm on the fence. And if we can, then just perhaps there might be hope after all for us.
Because this is what Pagan was talking about. If we can work in harmony with the land, then all of these things won't be happening. It'll be working in symbiosis with the energies of the land in order to create heaven on earth again. Because personally, we don't waste time on what we cannot change in the world, but we're passionate about what we feel we can.
Conspiracies. Do I mention conspiracies? We're in Glastonbury. Information is sometimes good, okay? But I've never seen a conspiracy theorist with a happy smile on his face. I sometimes think conspiracies are designed to bring your energy down and down and down and down. While you're down there, how can you be in the light? It's just a thought. It's just something I personally advocate. That doesn't mean I'm an ostrich, but I'm very selective with what we tune in for. It's all about giving your energy away to somebody else, isn't it? So please join us for our weekends where we'll do crazy things. We'll take you in chambered tombs on the full moon. We'll take you, we've got a couple of trips on Dartmoor and Avebury coming up this month. Please join us. We have a laugh, we dance. It's not all about being serious. So, and finally, what is the point of researching ley lines, earth energies, ancient cultures, all that stuff, unless we're going to do something meaningful with what we find? There's no point otherwise. Our chief motive personally is now the healing of mankind, the land and the earth. And we do that, we believe, by doing the best we can to heal ourselves. So culturally, just because the path mankind has walked is well trodden, doesn't mean that's the right path from now on. In fact, I'd say the opposite is the case.
So let us all walk in peace across Albion, our sacred land of dragons. For the dragon is not only in the land, the dragon is the land. And within our hearts we hold the mysteries of the past, the future. When we send out our love to the earth, we receive back love, unbounded.
So yeah, all our books are reduced this month. We have them again by sheer coincidence. They're on our table, our books. It's amazing how often that happens. They're all reduced this weekend. Come and have a look. It's never about the money. Sensing the Earth is our other book. We did a compilation. Tor did a chapter for it. Paul Devereaux, Hugh, Hamish Miller, Danu, Kathy Jones, big names. You'll see Rob. They all did it, and Paladin. They all did a chapter for this book during COVID. So, and we've got tickets for our convention, which we've done 19 of them now in Wiltshire. So instead of taking questions, we wanted to share a couple, because we're going to be here for the rest of the day. We wanted to share an ancestors song with you, and then we're going to get you all.
Can we recognise also the Easter Sunday as well?
Well, Ostara, yeah.
Time of rebirth.
Time of rebirth, yeah. Bunnies, hares, chocolates, yes. Yeah, well, all the ancient festivals, as you know, are based on, are a basis for the Christian ones. There's a good book called Stolen Images there, where I say that
everything Christian has a pagan origin. Doesn't it just? So we're going to share a little song. We've altered the words of a bliss song. Perhaps if you could close your eyes, because this is actually the ancestors speaking to you. This is the ancestors speaking to all of us. Do you hear me calling you? The voice of a mother and a father and a child. Do you recognize the truth? Do you feel the love that's falling from my heart? Take just a minute, come and rest thee by my side. Let me tell you your own story. Let me walk you through your life. Only a second, that's all it takes to realize that all your ancestors walk by your side. That all your ancestors walk by your side. That all our ancestors walk by our side.
Right. Quick chant. You up for a quick chant?
Yay!
Are you up for a quick chant?
Wake up before lunch.
This was channeled to us at a sacred site. Very simple, top line there, with a lovely Blake quote underneath. We'll just do a couple of verses, because we realise that when we're connecting back to the ancestors at these special places, yes, it's a bloodline for sure, but it's also a love line. It's a love line, and this is what we were told to chant. So you're going to join in. We're not going to stop until you do. Okay? So, ready?
Bloodline, love line, bloodline, love line. Oh, feel my love, feel my love. Oh, feel my love, feel my love. Bloodline, love line, bloodline, love line. Oh, feel my love, feel my love. Oh, feel my love, feel my love, feel my love, feel my love. Feel my love, feel my love, feel my love, feel my love, feel my love. Thank you.
Woo, thank you very much.